Hello, and welcome back to another EdTech video tutorial here at Boston College Law School. In this video, I'd like to do a deeper dive into editing the full Canvas template. I have a couple videos that I've already talked about how to import the templates, as well as how to edit the homepage, which I'll drop in the description below. So definitely check that out. I'll also leave links to any other resources I talk about in this video in the description as well, so be sure to look at that for any resources and timestamps to sort of jump around and get access to the various things I discuss in this tutorial video. What I'd like to do is start with what comes with the Canvas template, and then I'm going to go back and talk about how to edit these features to suit your needs, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about course design in general and best practices for organizing your course and why this course template sort of comes the way that it does. So again, I'm going to gloss over the homepage. I have a previous video that walks through this in great detail. So when you implement this Canvas template, the whole idea is that it is based off of using Canvas modules here. And the reason being is it's a really nice way to organize your course content, and it helps both you and your students sort of get an idea of the layout of your course. You can walk them through all the things that are expected of them. It's a great place to put learning resources, readings, materials, videos, web links, all of that type of stuff. And you can give them a little bit more context for why they're going through your course materials the way that they are. So if I click on modules, you can see that this template comes with 4 different modules. There's a course welcome, sort of boilerplate, stock language module. There's 2 examples of what a week could look like for your course, and I'll explain why it's set up like this later and how you can customize that as well. And then there is the BC Law homepage templates module, which just has a page that gives you some homepage examples that you could swap out to suit your needs. So real quick, I'd like to just highlight the Canvas documentation over here. This guide was developed by the Center for Digital Innovation and Learning and customized just a little bit for the law school template side of things. But this is essentially just a written guide of all the things I'm about to discuss in this video. So if you want, you can use this as a reference as well. It talks about some best practices for designing your course, including why you would use a module design and some different tips for getting up and running. Another common use and structure for modules, which isn't part of this course, but you could certainly adapt it to meet your needs if you prefer to do something like this, is to do a topic or unit for an individual module header here. And then you can add the different weeks as subheadings and add your course content in a different way. But everything I talk about in this video should give you enough to get started with this example if you'd like. It also talks about using the current structure, which is for each week of the course, you get a module header, and then you can add your course content there. So it makes it really clear about what's expected of your students. That also lets you add different activities and assignments and pages that make navigating your course much easier in a structure set up like this. Then there's some additional tips for designing modules, and below this is also some advice for creating pages and things to think about when you're designing your pages for your class. Again, all of these things I'm about to walk through. So this is just here for a resource for you in case you want to come back, but I wanted to point it out that it exists. So all of the modules in this course template are completely customizable. You can use as much or as little as you'd like. Again, this is just meant to help get you up and running very quickly. And especially if this is your first time creating a course, it gives you a good skeleton to sort of lay out your course structure. And then you can duplicate these modules from week to week and then customize them to meet your needs. And I'll walk you through exactly how to do that in just a second. If you're importing material from a previous course, you can still pick and choose some of these items to use as you see fit. And I'll have a video and some instructions about how to incorporate this on top of an existing course, if that's something you'd like to do. But for now, we're just going to work with this sort of stock boilerplate version of the Canvas course as if you were starting from scratch. So let's take a peek at what comes along for the ride, and we'll start with the course welcome. So in this course welcome module, there are a few things I just want to highlight. I'm not going to talk too much about editing, text and dropping things in like that, because that's a pretty common thing to do in Canvas and it's relatively straightforward. I'll discuss the few things you need to know about that, but for the most part, I just want to talk about what is specific to this template. And the first thing is going to be, you'll notice this little progress bar here. This is just a module navigation item here, and it's a specialized widget that comes along with design tools. I've talked about it in a couple of videos and hinted that this template makes use of some of these more advanced features. And again, the good news is if you want to use some of these, you don't have to know how to create them from scratch. You could just copy and paste the element or page and then customize it to suit your needs. And I'll walk you through exactly how to do that. But I do find it very helpful. And the main reason being is usually when you use modules, you don't get a sense of where you are inside of the module. So for example, if I'm on the third page here under technology support, without this progress bar, I don't know if it's the third page out of 4, out of 5, out of 25. You're never going to know. And it's hard to tell where you are. It's hard to get back to like the first item in the module, for instance. You just have to keep clicking the previous button to get back to the first one. So this just makes it easier to tell where you are in the space of your course, which I find super helpful. And these little items here are also links. So if I wanted to go back to the tech support without having to click next a few times, I can just click this item and immediately go there, which again, I find very handy. So back on this course welcome page, if I click edit, the other thing you'll notice is that this says it's built in the browser, hidden in the app, the icon progress bar navigation. So this is actually meant to be edited using design tools only. You can't do anything on this particular page. Like this whole top section here is part of the progress bar navigation item. So in regards to this template, anything that you'll be able to edit will start with this welcome message header. So you can just focus on the text below this. There's some placeholder text here that, you would want to come in here and delete and add your own course welcome message here. Then there's also a section for a course introduction video. These are all just common placeholders that come along with other Boston College Canvas templates. So if you don't want to use them, it's simple enough to get rid of them. Or of course you could delete the placeholder text and insert your own video here. Maybe you want to record a Panopto video directly inline, for example. You can choose to record directly from the web. You can upload a video of your own that you've added. Super easy to do there. I'm just going to cancel out of this. Or of course, if recording a welcome introduction is not your cup of tea, then you can just delete the whole thing and keep on going. Same thing for the Boston College bookstore link. Again, this is just standard editing of your campus site at this point. So I did just want to call out this top section here. This is kind of locked in with the design tools feature, and you're going to want to watch the design tools advanced editing video if you want to learn how to manipulate this and get rid of it, things like that. Cool. So I'm going to cancel out of this because I do want to keep all of this content here. On the next page in the course welcome, you've got your institutional policies. And again, this is sort of standard boilerplate language that the law school has developed. So the only thing you would want to customize here potentially would be this first section under participation, where you could put your specific participation policy for your students. The other thing you could do, if this is already in your syllabus and some of this is redundant, you could remove these things from here as well. Or you can sort of copy and paste the language if your syllabus language doesn't match and you'd prefer to use this. So again, this is all for you to speed up your workflow. You can use as much or as little of it as you'd like. The next page is the technology support section. So again, these are things that if you're going to be using certain technologies in your class, and these come with the most common ones, these are just guides meant for your students actually, but of course you could read through this as well. And it's just meant to help them get up and running with the various tools that they may be asked to use in your course. Hey, pardon the interruption. This is Editing Kyle chiming in here. So one thing before I hop over to the next segment of this is in the PollEverywhere section, one highly recommended thing to add, which came up from a helpful tip in a workshop I gave recently, is your PollEverywhere ID, or otherwise the URL that you use to poll your students. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a link in the description that you can learn more about how to set up PollEverywhere and some helpful guides there. But this would be a good spot to go ahead and provide that information to your students. So that way they've got the link, they have the information about setting up their account, and you can be off and running. If you want to grab a copy of your PollEverywhere username and address for your students, once you're signed into PollEverywhere, you can go to your profile, which can be found by this little icon down here in the navigation, and then up in the personal info section, you have your username here. You could just copy this and add that to the PollEverywhere section of your campus site. Okay, back to the video. Finally, you have the Law Library support page. This is just meant as an added bonus, some extra information for your students about the services that we can provide to your students. So we're at the end of this module, as you can see by the progress bar here. So I'm actually going to hop back out to the main module section to talk a little bit about the organization of this course. Like I said previously, this course is developed using the module system where each week is its own module header here. So if you're not familiar with using modules, if you need to add a new module, you can click the module plus icon here to get a new section like this. But I'm going to recommend using a different method, and I'll walk through that in just a second after I talk about the different components here. I'm actually going to recommend duplicating these modules, especially if you want to use this type of structure and the different stock components in here. It'll just help you create these much faster. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do is update this to actually reflect what the topic title is going to be. Again, this is week 1. Maybe you want to change this out to class 1 or something along those lines. All of these things can be edited to meet your needs. The topic title here, maybe this is just week 1, class 1, and class 2. Maybe you teach twice a week. Or if giving a descriptive title would be better for this, then you could of course do that. I'm going to go ahead and just click Update Module. We'll leave it as class 1 and class 2. And then each one of these things is prefixed with the week that you're in. And this is really helpful because every time you add a content item to a module, whether it's an assignment, a quiz, a page, what have you, all of those things get added to the module, but they're also created in their respective sections in the course. And you'll notice that a lot of these are disabled, and that's because there's no reason to go to these pages because that's what the module page is doing. You're guiding your students through the content of your course. If I were to go to pages, for example, by default, if you have a front page set, this will be the first thing you see, and then click View All Pages, you'll see that there's a list of various things here. And normally students aren't going to be able to get to this page because the pages section is disabled. So the only way that they'll get to your material is if you link to it in a module. And here you can see week 1, the various components, as well as week 2 here. So if I go back to modules, you can see those corresponding pages here. So there's the introduction, learning resources and readings, wrap up, and then there's also a page for week 2, learning resources and readings. And I'll explain why these are different here in just a moment. Let's take a look at what comes with the first week module. So the first one is broken down in one format that some of you have found useful in the past, where you have a week introduction, or maybe a class introduction first. So if I click on this item, Here you go. You can add an intro video or paragraph under this little header here. You can lay out some key concepts for things for your students to think about or that will be covered during the week. And then you can also tie this back to any learning objectives for either your course, even breaking it down to the section of the course that you're in. So again, giving a clear roadmap to your students about what's expected of them this week, and by the end of the week, what they should be able to do. Then, under Learning Resources and Readings, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is your course materials and content here. You could tell them, what they should be reading, watching, so on and so forth. Anything for review, this would be a good spot for maybe your course PowerPoints or something like that for each of your classes. And then there's also a guiding questions section, which again is just more things for your students to be thinking about as they're reviewing the material for your course. I'm just going to go ahead and click edit and just show you again how easy it is to customize this, but let me expand the editing window by clicking this icon here. Let's say I didn't want to have the guiding questions. Maybe it's a little bit much, kind of redundant, especially with the introduction. I can just highlight the text and then delete it. That's all you need to do. And I'll hit backspace a couple more times to get rid of that list item. So again, this is just meant to help you and guide you when you're creating your course. Feel free to use as much or as little as you'd like. And go ahead and hit cancel. Let's go back out to the next page. This first week comes with a stock assignment as well as some best practices for what you should include in your assignment description. This particular assignment is set up for a file upload submission. So this would be uploading a Word doc or a PDF or something that you could grade in SpeedGrader, or you could download them and grade them the old-fashioned way as well. And if I go to edit, you can see that under here, the submission type is set to online. It's a file upload type, but that's pretty much it. So if you want to add points to this and let Canvas handle your grading, if you want to remove this from the gradebook, it doesn't count towards the final grade, you can do that. You can also set any of the other Canvas assignment features here. If you want to learn more about that, I definitely recommend checking out Canvas's documentation. And I've done plenty of workshops and stuff where we talk about the different assignment types and assessment types that are available to you in Canvas. The last item here is going to be a wrap-up page. And this is a good opportunity for you to do things like provide an exit ticket for your students or simply review material that you went over in the week. Maybe it's a good opportunity for you to do like a debrief of, the things that people struggled with, maybe things people did well, that sort of thing. You can drop a really quick, 5-10 minute video, something along those lines, talking about that here. You can also include any additional resources, maybe optional or just something you found interesting that came up during the week. You could drop that here as well. So that is the week 1 module. And if I go back out to the modules list, you'll see that the week 2 is a little bit pared down. And the reason that is because also from some feedback from some of you who used this system before, you found that some of these items didn't meet the needs of your particular course, and that's totally fine. So what we did here was under week 2, the Learning Resources and Readings page, which is the first item, sort of combines the week 1 introduction and learning resources into one page itself. So if I click this item, this simply combined the intro video and discussion, as well as the key concepts to consider into one section above where you would put the learning resources and readings for this particular week. Feel free to use as much or as little of this as you'd like, or you can even add some things to this page if you see fit. And then the last piece here would just be an assignment for this particular week. Again, this is set to be a file upload type. So they would submit something, you can grade it online or by hand. You can also totally swap this out with a Canvas quiz, something like that. And then you can just take this description and repurpose that in the quiz. I encourage you to play around with these content items, make them your own, use this as inspiration to organize your current Canvas course. However you'd like to use them, they're here for you. Okay, so let's go back to modules, the main modules page here. Let's talk about how you would customize this and expand on it. For this example, I'm just going to keep going with the week 2. Again, typically you're going to want to customize the topic title. You can just click this menu dropdown and click edit to edit the name of it. But for this particular case, I'm going to keep it as week 2 for now. And I'm just going to keep building out sort of the skeleton of the course here. So I'm going to go back to this options dropdown up at the main module level here. And then I'm going to come down to duplicate. And what that's going to do is create a duplicate module, and it just adds the copy suffix to every single item here. So it generates a new version of each of these items. So there's a new page, there's a new assignment. So you're going to want to just update that to be the current week you're working on. So the first thing, if this were me building this course out, I would come up to the top level, click edit, take out the word copy here, and then just update this to week 3. Update the module. Same thing for the items here. So there's 2 ways to edit it. I'll show you each way here. The first one being you can click the drop down and click edit again. This just gives you access to the title. So I'm going to update the week. We'll go to week 3. We'll go to the end of this, take out the word copy, and then click update. Alternatively, you could just click on the name of the item and then click edit. And in the title field, you can update that here. Just like that. And you're good to go. Let's go back to modules here. And you'll notice that when I duplicated this, everything came in unpublished. And this is an important thing to know whether you're using this template or not. But each of these module items, and another benefit to using modules, is this is extremely customizable and very flexible and powerful for you as an instructor, because you can add things to modules or add all of the modules to your course. And then when you're ready for your students to see them, you can release certain things. So maybe I'm not ready for them to see week 3 or week 4 or so on. And I want to create these things, have them ready to go, but leave them unpublished until I'm ready. Well, it's very easy to do that. I can then click this publish icon and it will publish all the material inside the module. Let's say I wanted them to have access to the learning resources and readings, but I didn't want them to start working on the assignment yet. Then I can simply unpublish the assignment. Simple as that. And when you're in student view, I'm just going to scroll up to the top. Most Canvas pages have the student view button. And if you click that, it'll drop you into student view. You can see at the bottom of the page, it shows you you're currently logged in. This is also how you leave, or you can reset the test student that gets created. So if you wanted to, submit assignments and see what that process looks like as a student, and maybe even like grade a test assignment, then every time you come into student view, a test student gets created in your course. But that's a little outside of the scope of this video. I just wanted to mention that that is a thing. But this will show you what your course looks like to your students. So you can see that assignment that I unpublished doesn't even exist. If I leave student view and unpublish the module itself, and you'll notice this module didn't show up either, and I go back into student view. Now week 3 is also hidden. So a lot of flexibility there. I just wanted to call that out to let you know another way that you can use modules to suit your needs. Great. So let me give you one more example of just some ways you can mix and match these things. You could go ahead and duplicate this for week 4. So I'm going to create one more module. And let's say maybe week 4 was a time where I'm wrapping up a certain topic and I do want to have another wrap up page, but I don't want to have a course introduction or maybe even an assignment. So let's talk about how you can, first of all, delete things and actually delete them permanently from your course, and also how to reuse items from different modules. So first of all, what I want to do before I forget is to edit the title of all these things. So I'll just do this quickly. Okay, so for this example, maybe, leaving the assignment unpublished, like let's say you're not going to use the assignment, you could certainly just leave that item unpublished. Maybe in a future course you have an assignment for this week, maybe you don't, but maybe you just want to delete it in general. So there's two ways to do this. One, you can remove it from the module itself, which this doesn't actually delete the item. It just takes it out of the module. And you might be thinking, what's the point of that? Well, again, since the assignment's navigation link is disabled and it's not visible to students, they're not going to be able to get to it anyway because you haven't provided them a link on your course. You haven't added it to a module. You haven't added it to the homepage. You haven't added it to another page where it's linked specifically. So they're not going to be able to get to it anyway. But if you wanted to permanently delete it, what you would need to do is go to Assignments and then find that week 4 assignment here and actually delete it from the assignments list itself. So if I click delete, and then I go back to modules, since that doesn't exist anymore, Canvas is smart enough to know I don't need to link to that item in the module here. So you've got learning resources and readings, and let's say you wanted to add a wrap-up page. You could just create a new page from scratch, and you could click Create Page here, go down to Page Name, and you could say Week 4 Wrap-Up, and add that item. And what you'll see is when you go to here, this doesn't include any of the boilerplate language or the module navigation list that I mentioned can be added with design tools. Luckily in modules, if you copy and paste the content of the week 1 wrap up, for instance, so if I open up this page, come up here to edit, and then I'm just going to click somewhere in the rich content editor and do the keyboard shortcut, Command A, to select everything. I could also right click and then select all. And then I'm just going to copy this information here. So copy it, we'll cancel, we'll go back to modules, week 4 wrap up page, click edit, and then paste that in. And you'll see when I save it, it's smart enough to know I'm in the week 4 module. So, the first item in this is the resources and readings. So that's really nice to know. You could just copy and paste everything. And again, this doesn't require any knowledge of how to use design tools. It all just works, which is really great. The other thing you could do is you could simply duplicate this week 1 wrap up. So by clicking the options dropdown, click duplicate, then you have this week wrap up copy. Then you can move it to the module that you like. So these little handles here, this icon, the like grid looking icon, when you see your cursor turn into this 4-way arrow, then you can click and actually drag this to whatever module you want. And it sort of just like snaps in and locks in place. If you go too far, it's not going to know where to go sometimes. But what you want to do is just kind of click and drag it into place and let go of your mouse. And then you can update the name here. So if I click edit and I change this to week 4, I'm going to leave the copy just because it is a copy of the wrap-up page. And when I click this, the navigation item updates accordingly. Now there's 3 items in this. And you also get the headers that you'd like to include in your page here. But since I don't want this, I'm actually going to delete it. So up here, I'm going to click on this and then choose delete. By the way, this is another way to delete. And for pages, and actually for any of these items, this might be the easiest way to do it, is to go to your modules page, and then on the item that you want to actually delete, not just remove from the module, I can click on the name, click on the option dropdown, and then just go to delete. This drops me back into the Pages area, which again is hidden by default from your students. So if I want to go back to my modules to keep doing what I was doing, I can just click the modules navigation item here. So that's really the basics and some extra tips for how to go about duplicating these various items from week to week. And just as a recap, all of these things are customizable. They're here for you to make use of if you'd like, or again, just give you some ideas for how to organize your course content. To duplicate modules, you do that from the main module header area. So if I wanted to create a week 5 module when I'm ready, I can just click duplicate. And then you can also customize the names to match the current weeks, things like that. The final thing that you'll notice when you import this Canvas template is that it also incorporates some best practices for your course navigation. So you'll notice that a lot of these things are hidden and sort of arranged in a certain way. Where that comes from is in your course settings. There is a navigation section, and this is where the organization and order of your course navigation comes from. So everything in this bottom section is going to be hidden from your students. And sometimes when it's down here, it's also hidden from you as well. Not every single Canvas item behaves the same way. But in general, what's going to happen is it will remove it from view from your students, but you'll still see it just with the little I slashed out here. And you'll notice that announcements is up at the top, but it also shows that icon that says it's not visible to students. That's just because there aren't any announcements in your course yet. The second that you add an announcement, this area will also become visible to your students. So the order and the items that are added to the course navigation, this is just kind of like a best practice. And if you decide you're not going to use some of these things, then you can also remove them from your course navigation as well. And again, this just helps make sure that there aren't items in your course navigation that you're never going to use or you don't expect your students to ever use. It just reduces some confusion on your students' part if they're clicking around on various content items where there's nothing there and there's nothing ever going to be there. You might want to remove it from your course navigation to avoid that headache altogether. Okay, that was a lot. I went over a ton of stuff, and I hope this was helpful for you. I hope I made things a little bit more clear about the Canvas template, how you can use it, how you can manipulate it to meet your needs for your course. I'll be doing another video here pretty soon talking about some of the more advanced features of design tools, mainly about how to use the homepage example where you have an advanced homepage where you can use a course modules list here. It's just one additional way to reduce any friction for you and your students to get to your course content. But there are some things to know about using this that are a little bit more involved. And I'm also going to talk about some different components that you can add to your pages here, including the ins and outs of using this module navigation widget. I hope you found this video useful. Definitely use the timestamps to jump around and learn about the things that you want to learn about. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you in another video soon.